Hi, I'm Rhonda Crimes and I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people to reflect and rework their everyday stories so they can step into the everyday leadership of their families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. And today, let's talk about measuring your own success. Last time we chatted, I asked you how much time do you spend comparing how your life measures up to the expectations of everyone else. If you missed that one, you can easily find it on my Facebook videos or on my YouTube channel. So from that conversation, I hope I conveyed that you really do need to stop comparing yourself. No good comes out of it. In fact, it can leave you feeling inadequate, jealous and judgmental. So really, just stop it. Well, that's all well and good, Rhonda, I hear you say. But if I'm not looking to measure myself against someone else, how will I know if I'm successful then? Ah, grasshopper, I am so glad you asked. First of all, I'm going to ask you to put on your curious cap and make some light-hearted observations of yourself. As we take a look at 6 of my views, which aren't the truth, by the way, but they are some of the ways that I use to bring the important things to the front of my mind and to peel away the stuff that skews my very personal measures of success. Number 1, be aware of social comparison bias. So when you think of success, what's the first thing that springs to your mind? Is it wealth? Is it career or job title? Health or maybe even happiness? Often what we believe is our measure of success is what our culture, society and mainstream media has promoted. We are under constant barrage of information telling us to be successful, we need to be thinner. We need to drive the latest car, buy the biggest diamond, eat fast food. Oh, I could go on, but you know what I mean. Under this constant bombardment, I believe we become desensitized to the impact. And so we internalize or unconsciously believe these things to be true, rather than remaining consciously aware that they are merely offerings of opinion or choice from very persuasive marketing machines pushing their own barrows. I'd like to take a wee moment to just look at the definition and etymology of the word success to get us all on the same page of understanding. So come along with me for a moment. Now the Oxford Dictionary defines it as the accomplishment of an aim or purpose, and it comes from the Latin, and excuse my pronunciation for any of you academics out there, succedere, to come close after. So from those definitions of success, when we think in terms of our life, it doesn't have to only apply to wealth, status or material objects. For me, success really means accomplishing the small things on the way to the important desires, dreams and aspirations that you have for yourself, and also the other people or purposes that are also significant to you. You know, the things that bring a smile to your face, the glow in your heart, the spring in your step, that feeling that you are making progress, and the voice inside letting you know you've done a good job. These are the things that you are happy to spend time, money and energy on. Step number 2. Firstly, you need to know what is important to you. Very simply, that is what you value, what you will spend time, money and energy on. Have a think about what you currently spend the most amount of time doing. What costs you the most money? What energy are you expending on people and activities or experiences? Now, at this stage, there's no judgment on whether these are good or bad things. Remember, we've got our curiosity caps on, and it's all about just light-hearted observation. So once you do have a really clear picture of what you're valuing right now, you then firstly decide if they're really what you want, or if you've been on unconscious autopilot. You can then decide on your own metrics that do mean success for you. So if, for instance, you value health, your metric might be that you're going to cook from scratch 5 nights a week, and if you are accomplishing that, then you are already successful and you get to do the happy dance. But maybe though you realise, actually I work most nights, so that metric might not be a realistic one for you, because travel actually has a higher value for you, and that is why you're working the overtime. So instead of thinking you're a failure, you just need to tweak the metric of success to something that does meet your value of health, as well as aligning to your value of travel. So you might choose to batch cook from scratch on the weekend and then freeze meal portions ready to have through the week. Find what works for you and what you can sustain. So number 3, your circle of control. Sometimes we focus on an outcome or a goal and we lose sight of the process to get there. More often than not, in order to achieve an outcome, there are so many variables outside of yourself that will play a really critical role, and we need to get them all to come together. So anything that is outside of you is outside of your control. So you can't count on it 100%. You can count on you 100% though. Now, John Wooden was a famous American basketball player and a head coach of UCLA who won the NCAA national championships in a 12-year period, including an unprecedented 7 in a row. And he said, the more concerned we become over the things we can't control, the less we'll do with the things we can control. Now, I reckon he may have known a thing or two about measuring success. So be mindful that you're focusing on your own emotions, your own beliefs, and the actions that you take every day. Stop focusing on what everyone else is doing or the opinions of people who don't actually fully understand and respect your values. Instead, think, what can I do or be that aligns to what I value today? What you do today builds on what you'll do tomorrow. Oh, and please remember that worry falls out into your out of control basket. All worry does is take up precious time and energy that you could be using in taking much more fruitful action. My family is something that is way at the top of my values list. But when my kids got older and started going out at night, I committed to myself that I had instilled as much safety awareness and good choice making as I could. So I didn't wait up or stay awake until they came home. Instead, I took action to sleep. That way, if something bad had happened, or they needed me to rescue them because they'd missed the last sober lift from a party 20 k's out of town, I would be well rested and my own decision-making capacity fully functioning. I measured that as successful parenting. My kids got to be independent with a backup plan, and I got my much-needed sleep. So step 4, begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey brought this iconic habit into life in his 1988 best-selling book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind is habit 2, in which he wrote, habit 2 is based on imagination, the ability to envision in your mind what you cannot at present see with your eyes. The notion underpinning beginning with the end in mind is, as Covey writes, based on the principle that all things are created twice. There is a mental first creation and a physical second creation. Having this insight has helped many athletes and other peak performing people attain the success they desire. And you too could use the same strategy to help you keep your eye on the ball, or to help keep you away from the behaviours that don't serve your overall measure of success. It's really easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and be working diligently away on an activity, climbing higher and higher on the ladder of success, only to find that the ladder is resting on the wrong wall. Beginning with the end in mind helps you to know where you want to go, have a better understanding of where you are now, and ensuring that the action steps you're taking are in the right direction. So step number 5, stay in the game. Success doesn't happen overnight, and it can mean that you find your ladder was up against the wrong wall a couple of times. This can be due to changing circumstances or perspectives. I know for me, when I left GTT after my redundancy, I thought I need to do something different. I knew I had to keep working, but I wanted not to be in such a critical role of a small business that I had no power in. I am a hard worker and I enjoy detailed work. I love dotting my I's and crossing my T's and making sure everyone else is as well. Now, I'd done the financial duties in just about every job I'd had, so I thought I'd become a bookkeeper. In fact, I'm a bit of an overachiever, so I signed up to do a Cert 4 in bookkeeping and a diploma in accounting at the same time. And I could do it. I was getting great feedback from my assessors, and I attained competence in 6 units before I realised my ladder was up against the wrong wall. I was bored out of my brain doing the mind-numbing and, in my personal opinion, ridiculous process of saying what you think in 3 to 6 slightly different ways. So I packed up my ladder and reassessed. Thank heavens I did, because then I found my coaching pathway. But I didn't know I didn't want to do bookkeeping and accounting until I tried it. And then I had the courage to say, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going in the right direction with this. Now, number 6, play around with me here, guys, is using science to help everyday success. So, to wrap up, we can also borrow from the scientist's process of investigation to help us measure success. No, it doesn't involve test tubes and Bunsen burners, although I do recall they were the best times I had in chemistry. Not actually a good indicator of my own measure of academic success, but my lab partner and I had a lot of laughs. Anywho, back to science. So, part 1 of this. Ask a question. You get it curious. This is one of my favourite things. As an example from my own life, when I found out that I was pregnant the very first time, I really wanted to be a successful parent. So I actually just really asked myself, what will make me a successful parent? Step 2, gather information. Another fave thing of mine is observing people. So I reflected on my own upbringing, what I thought mum and dad did well, what I didn't like. I also looked at my extended family that had children. What were they doing that I agreed with? Or sometimes what I would not be doing ever. Then I also read parenting books and magazines. Oh people, this was back in the late 80s, before the interwebs revolutionised my life. Which brings us to step 3, create a hypothesis. I thought of all the things that I'd observed and then took a best guess to understand or predict what would have a higher likelihood of success in respect to my value of being a successful parent. And this is what I came up with. If I loved my kids unconditionally, showed them respect, gave them realistic and age-appropriate boundaries, provided natural consequences incrementally, taught them the value of we as opposed to I in the family dynamic, fed them nutritionally, and created fun times, they would turn out to be well-rounded and I would be a successful parent. Number 4, test the hypothesis. Fun times, but still no Bunsen burners. It's children we're talking about. Try out the things that are going on in your head. You know, the things that you think will work and that are aligned to your hypothesis or the journey towards success. I'll use the we value as my example. I'd witnessed that some kids didn't grow up liking their siblings, and I wanted my family to be a really strong, connected unit. So when our first baby, Brianne, came along, I always referred to everything in the house as ours and how we would do this or that. I did make sure she had some of her own precious things, like her Skitcher teddy. That was hers, and she could share him or not. So she had an early grounding of autonomy. But basically, everything else was ours, and we shared. Ron and I always modelled that the toys that she played with could be played with by us as well. Each time she grabbed something from us, like, a red block, we would just reach over to the blue block that was close by her and start playing with that. And then if she grabbed that one, we'd just take the red one back. This game would go on for ages. We didn't tell her off and she didn't get grumpy. In fact, it became a huge source of fun and laughter for all of us. Then when baby number 2, Kobe, came along, he was always our baby. And I made sure that she knew that the baby things that up until now only she used would be his too. She idolised our baby and wanted to help do everything, and we shared him too. Rest assured, when he was not actually attached to me, she had some of her own time with me, and it was usually with Sketcher Ted in tow. But if that wasn't possible, the 3 of us had we time together where we did something she loved, like reading a book. There was enough love for all of us. And then step 5, analyse the result. This is the all-important reflection time. What is working? What needs to change or be improved? Was it useful in relation to my outcome of being a successful parent? So continuing with my example, I noticed that Brianne shared with Kobe, and then they both continued this when Tyler burst onto our scene. Now, I'm not saying they didn't have spats, get grumpy, be mean, and do all those things that little ones do as they're exploring their world and how they fit into it. And I certainly wasn't Maria of the Von Trapp family fame. I lost my cool at times, but these times were exceptions. And overall, my kids loved to play together. They were generous toward each other, they were protective of each other, and they shared just about everything. So step number 6, make a conclusion or a theory. Oh, I get to be just like my role model Brené Brown here. When we prioritise, demonstrate and model the value of we in our family dynamic, the value of I is subordinate, and there is a very real reduction of inter-family competition and rivalry. Now, this is a written version of the theory that was just in my head in those early years. And I shared that with Ron in conversations that we had about raising our family together. And it was a metric of success that worked for us. It might not work for you because, hello, you are not me. But I know in my heart that you are more than equipped to follow this process and come up with what does work for you and still aligns to what is important for you. Then step 7 is rinse and repeat. When you do find something that works, keep doing it. but do still check in to make sure it still serves its purpose. As our babies grew, they needed more of their own time and things, and they also needed to learn to respect and value other people's needs and possessions. So the metrics changed and evolved, sometimes beautifully smoothly, and sometimes with a great deafening thud to prompt that change. So if it isn't working, try something else. Go back to what and revisit the steps again. Step 1. Is this truly your own measure of success? Or have you fallen prey to the marketing machines pushing the social comparison bias upon you? What does success really mean for you? What do you value? Has anything changed or slipped into autopilot? 3. What is within your circle of control that you can nurture and build upon, or rethink how you respond? 4. How will you know you are successful? Use your imagination and visualize that picture. Then take the steps to paint it. 5. Stay in the game. You're in it for the long haul. If you mess up, regroup and go again. And 6, if it's really important to you, make the time to explore. A bit like a scientist, step by step. I know that sometimes it feels easier to just fly by the seat of your pants, go along with the crowd, or keep under the radar. But seriously, they are short-term wins. You deserve better than that. You deserve to live a sustainably compelling life, driven by what you consciously value. That, in my opinion, will deliver the success you aspire to. If your now is not the picture you've painted for yourself, or you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please do get in touch with me. You can do it really easily. Just leave me a comment, send me a private message, drop me an email, and we can set up an obligation-free curiosity call and see if we are a good fit for each other. Much love, until next time.